welcome back. And in the last video of us doing some things on the street, we found out we were still dropping fuel pump or the fuel pressure just a little bit. And I think the reason why that's happening is because I have one of the pumps wired with this, which is a fuel pump wiring kit, a hardwire kit, and it basically has this really nice thick cable that goes all the way up front to the battery. And then I have one of the pumps actually ran off of the factory fuel pump wire, which is actually a really, really thin wire, which goes to this little fuse box basically in here up under the dash. And so that fuse box is the same that is typically underneath the hood, but in this car it's been relocated up underneath the dash. So that's why we have a little bit more wiring stuff going on in there than I would actually like. But so due to that, I think what's happening is there's a wire about this size that goes to that to basically run the whole car, so that controls the ECU and all that other type of stuff. But then that is also running the fuel pump off of that wire as well as the whole rest of the car. So like not the cooling fans. I think the cooling fans are off a different thing. But anyhow, I think that's just not a good way to do it. So anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and actually run this straight to the battery, and hopefully that gets rid of our voltage drop issue from the fuel pumps actually just drawing so much voltage, trying to keep up with the demand of this thing, because it goes to about 5 bar, which is about 72 pounds of fuel pressure, just because this is a rising rate fuel pressure regulator. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually get that second pump all wired up. So in order to do that, I'm just gonna actually raise this thing up on the lift and run the wires and do all that type of stuff. So yeah, I guess we're gonna get to doing that, and then I'm gonna take it over to the dyno, I think. See if we can make some more power. Guys, loading up, heading over to the dyno. You can hear, so now that I have both of the pumps running, got 2 big old wires going to the battery, you can hear the pumps. They're way happier. It just sounds like, it's like one of those memes, like if you could pull up and his fuel pumps are louder than your car, you probably shouldn't race him. That's kind of how I feel right now.
Right there. Huh? $675, 718, 520, 718, 525. Yeah.
Hold on, let me clean this up real quick. All right, so basically cleaning up some stuff on the fuel map. Basically now
it's going to like 5.1, 5.2 bar of fuel pressure. So fixing those fuel, or adding that second relay to the fuel pumps, it's not dropping off at all, even though the voltage is actually dropping a little bit for the fuel pumps, or for the ECU a little bit. Yeah, so basically now I'm just leaning it out a little bit because it was super fat. It was basically 0.72 lambda, which is similar to like a 10.0 or a 10.3 AFR, so super fat. And leaning it out just a little bit on one other pull at the same boost made like 50 more horsepower, getting it closer to that basically like 0.79, which is closer to like 11.5, 11.8, somewhere in there. So leaning it out helps out a lot. So yeah, I think we're gonna do another pull. It got really rich up there up top. That's the most boost it's ever actually seen. It was 43 PSI in the map sensor, which is about 29 PSI of actual boost pressure, and it made 718. And I haven't changed the timing or anything. So literally it's at like 14 degrees of timing, like, and 14 degrees and 29 pounds. So
that's crazy.
She's ripping. So I'm gonna do another pull and with that cleaned up a little bit up top with the air fuel.
And then just add timing as you go.
And then maybe add a little bit more boost, and then we'll play with it a little bit. So maybe I'll add a little bit more boost, or I don't know.
Probably boost and just add like a degree or two.
Let me discuss with James, and then.
Yeah. Because that's still really reserved. 14 degrees is nothing, especially on E.
Well, I want to do another pull and see if it cleans it up, and then we'll play with timing.
Yeah,
I don't want to do too many things.
Yeah, makes sense. $781.
Sounded clean. Hell yeah.
It's still a little rich up top too.
Yeah.
I can still lean it out, and that was just leaning it out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The E will pick up crazy power when it's 10 out like super fat like that, and then come into it. Yeah, you'll see huge power. Yeah, like in my car, I leaned it out too, from 11.0 to 11.2, and I picked up 7 mile an hour in the 8. On my Camaro, just 0.2 that I noticed. It was huge. So like E, if it's fat, it won't make no power. Once you get it in a happy area, it'll make all the power.
Yeah, I think it really likes that 0.79. So in the log, you can see it was actually dipping about 7.4, somewhere in there, 0.74.
So it still has some
getting closer to
spots.
11.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still having a couple little dips, but it definitely, I cleaned up that top area a lot because it was going super fat up at the top. So I'm blending it out, but
now your duty cycle's probably happy. Everything's a lot happier.
Fuel pressure's at 5.8 bar.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's what.
You can dial
That's a lot of fuel pressure.
What's your base?
42.
And then plus 30 is what it should be.
Yeah.
72 pounds of fuel pressure.
I think it's more than that. 5.8 is
it might be
5.8 times more. 14, so it's probably going a little bit more.
So I think it's fattening up. It's just so much pressure.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you definitely would rather it be on that side of it than.
Yeah. The live stream. So we're doing the live stream. So if you guys have seen this video, these guys have already seen it first.
Ready?
Yep.
Ooh. So we are, boys. That's what we started out with. Kind of partway through it, we had some clean runs, and then basically I was kind of leaning it out. What I decided I wanted to do, because the fuel table was really kind of had a big peak, and then it fell down right in that power number at the higher boost level. So it wasn't hitting obviously the lower boost level. So what I decided to do was actually turn the boost down, do a couple pulls, clean up that. Before we added timing or tried to do anything past the 780. So I think what ended up happening is our throttle position sensor went out, and so in the logs you can basically watch the TPS, and you go wide on throttle, goes 100%, and then it like goes like 40, 70, 60, 40, and it like sits there and it basically does this, a big old jagged line. and that's where that acceleration DTPMS or whatever table was actually pulling the ignition, because it thought, you know, we were basically backing off the throttle, but it was still wide open throttle. Everything was increasing still, and that's why it was kind of doing the weird stuff with the timing. I'm assuming, at least. Again, this is kind of, you know, I'm not the most professional tuner everything out there, but I'm here, I'm learning, and, you know, it's my car. I'm willing to push it and play with things. And so I think that, you know, I think K-Tuned, they make a TPS sensor, and, you know, because it's better than the factory. And I think that that's probably the issue, is that, you know, these things, that was the 200 and some thousand mile TPS that was out of the RSX. It's been on this engine for, you know, a little, almost a year now at least. This thing sees tons of vibration, like it literally like vibrates, like it just vibrates a lot of stuff underneath the hood with the more solid mount. So I think that's gonna be it for right now. We're gonna come back tomorrow. I already ordered a TPS, so I guess we'll throw it back on the dyno tomorrow and see what she makes. What are you thinking, James?
Learning, man.
What do you think about these 4-cylinders?
It was looking real impressive until we ran into some issues. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's running good, dude. That might have been a saving grace that actually you ran into those issues at the lower boost before you started going.
Well, actually, this was a high boost. We were playing with the high boost stuff, and that's when it actually kind of started.
Yeah. So, but tomorrow, hopefully, you can clip that 800-ish.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're there. I mean, that's only, you know, 29 pounds that it made that 780.
And still conservative timing, conservative fuel.
Oh yeah, like 14 degrees timing.
But your fuel's not too bad. It's kind of in the ballpark now. So
fuel's getting a little bit closer, so I think we're definitely there. So hopefully, I don't know. It'd be nice to see an 8, you know, beginning on that thing. But I'm just excited to, like, you know, kind of learning this whole thing. And like I said, we definitely had to play with the fuel a lot just because of that pump not actually falling off. So even when it was on the dyno at PFI, when it had the K20 in it, I think we were still kind of chasing that issue with that fuel pump, you know, just not giving it enough power.
For sure.
And, you know, I think that's why the table kind of went up so high back there, because we were chasing it with pulse width, basically. And that really wasn't even doing it when we got back. And we've never even, it's making way more steam now than it ever has before with the 24 and the,
now you got the right fuel and everything, so
yeah,
you fought yourself, because last time you inflated the numbers to try to chase the fuel pump, and now you're
going back.
The other way.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. I feel like I could sit on this dyno like all day.
We learned a lot.
Yeah,
like in those couple.
Well,
hours,
even you too. Like when we were messing with this thing, so we did the 4th gear and then doing the ramp runs.
Yeah, now the ramp runs are real consistent. You're able to just do your thing, give you the controller, and you just do what you want to do with it. And it's been nice, and we could see where you'd make a little extra, and then when it would fall off, and it's rich, so it lost power or gained power or whatever. So, I mean, that's it right there.
Definitely makes a lot of power, and I think we could keep revving her out a little bit, because we're only going to about 85, 86, somewhere in there. So,
try to chase that a little bit further.
Yeah, hop back on here tomorrow. TPS that we got. So this is just a cheap little Tech Smart from O'Reilly's. So we'll see if this thing works. It was what we were able to get. So I'm gonna replace this as the OEM one right here. Texted Brent last night, and I kind of told him my situation, and he said that he actually just replaced one on the dyno, and he said that this is just kind of a common thing that these TPSs, they just don't like it. So, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and replace it and see if that fixed our issue. Alright guys, so got the TPS on, got it all scaled in the little thing, and this morning before I came to the shop I went ahead and I cut James some quick little vinyl, just so we're not advertising for the freaking Harborius Sprayed anymore. Now at least got a couple
it hooked up,
a little bit of branding in here. So yeah, I went ahead and scaled everything TPS and started it up, and seems like we're good. I mean, it was good. It was good previously when we were just revving it. It was only happening when we were actually doing a pull, and I think like all the vibration stuff. So there's basically like a little spring in there, and it kind of like rides on something. So I'm assuming just with all the vibration, it was probably like bouncing around and doing some stuff. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, James? You think she's gonna make some power today?
Hope so.
I mean, we're already pretty much there. I mean,
no, you're where you kind of want to be. You just
we were
at home. Yeah,
we turned her down, and then now we were going back up, and that's when the TPS issue happened. So
seems like I got one of the most expensive diagnostic tools you can own.
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's nice because you can figure those issues out, and you can move on past them and keep going. You're not worrying about like what's causing this issue, and it takes you 10 days at the track, you know.
Yeah.
It would take you sitting in lane, go up there, oh yeah, issue, next, and
Yeah.
here you can kind of figure it out a little bit
And that's
quicker.
also the thing that's so nice about like having a standalone ECU, because during the log, it literally logs every single parameter. So as long as you had even if you don't have like little data logger thing on, it was already on. So you just go back in the little graph of the log, and even if you didn't have a channel selected, it saved it the whole time. And then there's a couple like little diagnostic windows, so you could go to ignition timing, and it'll show you all the corrections. And so like as you're scrolling along and you see it pull like ignition timing, it'll say yes or no. So that's how I found the acceleration enrichment, which was tied to the TPS, which then you were like, well, what is your TPS doing? So then we looked at the TPS on the log, and then the TPS was just going crazy.
All over the place.
So
that's what's so nice about data log, is you can look back and know what's going on.
yeah, so I'm ready, I think.
Should be good.
Yeah, let's get it done.
Really smoky.
Alright guys, so the new TPS actually, it held out, so we should be good. So we got a little bit of smoke, so we added about a half quart of oil. I checked it because it was at an angle, so you know, obviously the pickup is in the front of the pan. So we added about a half a quart, and then it started actually smoking a little bit, because there's right here that little wastegate, or that line kind of comes forward. So we actually jacked up the back of this thing, so we'll see if that fixes it.
You still have just a rough spot somewhere, but up top it sounded a lot better. Warm?
206.
Overflow. Line melted.
Oh, the overflow line melted?
Here's the fucking massive model he has.
Oh. Get some water out of it again. 720. Oh, the one prior to that?
Yeah, I pushed a lot of water. I pushed a lot of water.
Oh.
Like a lot, like all up in the boost. I pushed water.
You see what it made?
What did it make? 890.
Well, took a head gasket with it, but
You think?
there's a chance.
Yeah, I would hope. Those should hold. Those should hold.
I mean, it put water all the way over. Oh yeah, it's everywhere. Pushed all over the computer. Floor. That's crazy. Made a ton of power. What boost was that? That'd have been pretty high then.
Like 33 is 47 on the
Yeah, like 30, 32, 32, 33.
yeah. Maybe.
Smoky.
start pulling it off of the dyno. I don't know if you've seen in that last pull, but this thing squirted some water out of it. And so I don't know, we might have had a little bit of an air pocket, so we kind of tried to bleed it. And then we were going to put it back on there, or we started back up, kind of let it idle and kind of warm back up, and was getting ready to do another little pull. And it just kind of had more of a haze that was coming out of the exhaust. And it's not oil. It doesn't smell like coolant because there's water in there. It just kind of smelled, it was interesting. It wasn't, I don't know. So we're not 100% sure. But on that last pull, it made 893 horsepower at 600 and how many torques?
630.
630 torque. So that was about 35 pounds of boost. When Brent was tuning it previously, it made about 616 horsepower on about 23 pounds of boost on the K20. So now it is a K24, higher compression, revving it a little bit higher. And so I don't know, it's, part of me feels like it didn't make the 890, but at the same time, like the pulls before that, we were, so can you kind of explain how we're loading it and the difference?
Yeah, so on the run here, we were doing ramp runs the whole time, and leading up to the last two pulls, we were on like 24 mile per hour per second, and now we went back to 20 because last night when it made the 780, we were loading a little bit harder at 20 mile an hour per second. You saw 780. We came back pretty much same tune here on 20. We were seeing like 730, so we're 50 horse off. So we were like, let's load it a little bit harder, see what it makes. So we loaded a little bit harder, but then you also threw a bunch more boost at it and everything. So the last two pulls, it does kind of verify that with the extra load and boost and everything that it was trending that direction. So this is the one where you let out of it early, and it was already starting to make the 590 torque. So a little less load, 530 torque, more load, started making the 590, and then pretty much you made identical pulls here and here. You just revved it all the way out. So
yeah, and so the reason I let out right there is because the air fuel went super lean, because the vacuum line actually popped off of the wastegate reference, and so it just, instead of the fuel pressure just rising as we got into boost, it just stayed completely level.
Base, yeah.
So yeah, it went really lean, and I basically just got out of it. So then the next pull, we kind of turned it up a little bit more. Or yeah, it looked good.
And it made all the power and a bunch of boost and
yeah,
everything there. So I mean, it would have been nice to verify this, or go back and put the little bit slower ramp in it, or a little bit faster ramp in it, and see if it makes the power that we were.
Yeah.
See, just turbo cars, you load them harder, they're going to want to make more power, and trying to find where it's happy. So this thing on the
street, it always made more boost on the street than it did on the dyno. So
we're trying to load it to more mimic the street.
And so that's where that like mile an hour per second. So basically, it's only letting it accelerate at 20 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour per second. So it's kind of simulating like a road load or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, and there's so many different settings and
that's
variations you can do, but
yeah, and so it being a hub dyno, it's not like a dyno jet or something where there's like a big roller in the ground.
Yeah, so you
like,
already have a set amount of inertia built into the roll. So a lot of it is we got to find that what makes it happy, and we found that. I mean, you had real consistent, and that's every dyno can be manipulated by load or different settings or whatever. But we want to see consistent results, and you were getting it. You'd make a change, you'd make a little more power, make a change, make a little more power, and then we'd load it harder, and then it would kind of adjust that. But
yeah,
but that's where we're going. We were going with the same load back-to-back runs, and when it was loaded that extra amount there, it definitely picked up a bunch of power.
So yesterday when we made the 780, we were loaded at basically
on this same setting where it made the 890.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that was, I believe, about 26 pounds of boost. So we were up, 26 to 27. I don't know.
Another 7 to 8 pounds of boost it picked up. I mean, that shows that it almost 100 horsepower. Plus, you said about a degree of timing and stuff. So
yeah, and the fuel table and everything was a little bit better. So that it is, dynos are interesting. They're definitely a tool.
Yeah.
And it is really cool that using this dyno to kind of be able to manipulate it, throw more load at it, let it accelerate faster, give it less load, give it more load, drag it down. I almost wonder what would happen if we throw like 30, instead of 20 mile an hour, we did like 17 or 15 mile an hour more, like if it would make more at less boost or whatever.
Yeah, just where you're loading it. And I mean, you can tell it lights the turbo sooner with more load, and just like
And
that's
so
just like this on front wheel drive, it gets different load than having all wheel drive in it.
Yeah.
When you put the all wheel drive shaft, it sees more load, it makes more boost on the street. So
yeah.
I'd be curious to see on that same setting if you go out there what it makes on the road now.
Oh yeah,
if
if it would hit boost cut and do a bunch of crazy stuff just because it's making, you know,
or does it go up there and make the 30 whatever
34 and that stays
and
there.
it stays there, then that matches what the dyno was. So then we know, well, that was actually really close.
So so the other style of runs you could do on this is you could basically set a load. So you could say 20%.
Yeah, so we've done a little bit of that, and you can set it. The hard part is on a turbo car when they make such little horsepower at no boost, and then they make a bunch of horsepower at high boost, you can load it so hard that it can't even pull into boost. So or you got to start real high on the revs, and
so that's why it seems like it likes that 20 to 25.
Yeah, and I mean that's throughout a ramp run you're trying to figure out what a car is going to make a normal pull, base it on gearing, everything else. There's a little bit into that equation to figure out kind of what the car would normally see. That car won't probably ever, I mean, you're talking a 200-300 horsepower car is going to, you know, go, 12 mile an hour second or whatever. And then 800-900 horsepower cars probably closer to the, 20 range type of a deal. So it's finding what it likes and what that car is. And with VTEC, it's a little bit different too, because it comes in so aggressive.
Yeah, and going from no boost to 30 pounds of boost too.
Almost
It's
instantly,
It's not like a V8 where it already makes a lot of torque. I mean, this thing doesn't really make a lot. I mean, obviously it makes a lot when we get up there, but yeah, it's definitely crazy. So yeah, again, James's channel, Build Tune Race. I got him some stickers over here, so now you're looking a little bit more official. But again, James just got this dyno like 2 months ago, maybe.
Yeah, into January. So
yeah,
which the first month was just figuring it out. Now, I mean, you've been over here a couple of times more than anybody. You've spent about as much time on it. So, but we're learning. That was kind of part of it. These are different runs from what we did with the Mustang, so we can kind of learn what we want when we want it. And that's with everything, you got to learn it. Just like you're learning the ECU, I'm learning this stuff, and we'll get it all dialed in.
I mean, just kind of playing with a bunch of things and stuff like that. So, hopefully we didn't hurt the engine too bad. We might tear it apart. We might drive it around a little bit, see if it's actually hurt. But man, 890.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have backed it up, but I mean, the run prior kind of does back that up with the way it was trending and it was looking. So
well, and it made the 780 when it was loaded. I mean, again, I think just loading it harder, it makes more.
Yep. And I mean, the 780 plus, 6 pounds boost or whatever we're thinking there, it could have picked up 100 horsepower there. So that's it's close.
Plus a little bit of timing. So
yep.
So yeah, again, be sure to go check out James's channel, Build Tune Race on YouTube and Instagram. And again, I really appreciate you. Let me kind of play around. Going, I mean, I left the freaking car in the dyno last night and took up your evening for basically 3 evenings now.
Got quite a few hours into it, but that's what helps is I get to learn, you get to learn, and we're all learning here.
Figured out we both could make some videos. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I guess we're gonna. I don't have to walk back to the shop tonight. It's still driving.
Still driving. You got a.
I mean, it starts just up. It doesn't do anything crazy.
It just has that weird
little
haze and kind of smell to it. Like whenever it's pushing water on that last pass, you kind of start smelling it. Now we kind of consistently smell it. So
and maybe we caught it soon. And again, this is a 100% stock block with a block guard basically just hammered in there. So in a lot of these guys that are making that much power, they're all either CSS with like an O-ring or a step deck, or again.
So it's all on that. You're like right on the edge of the power right there, lifting or hurting something.
And it's a smaller turbo too, so cylinder pressures are high. But I think I'm getting a call from Jamie. I got to get going.
Time to go home.
Yeah. See you later,
All right,
James.
man. We'll see you.